the Tusk. My guest this afternoon is Katra Stormreaver from Haranover clan. Welcome. Thank you for joining me.
It's good to be here.
So, before we get into why we do this, I do want to mention that an episode prior to this will feature your sister. So, may have some. If you got some dirt you want to drop on, it'll be a fantastic time. But speaking of your sister, let's talk about how'd you get into the Mercs?
Yeah, okay. So that directly relates to her, actually. So basically, I was in Germany, and she was, while I lived in Germany, my husband was in the military, she kept hitting me up about this new group that she was a part of, and it was like a costuming group, and she told me Mandalorians, but at the time I was like, okay, like cool, whatever, I like Star Wars, but I wasn't really like into the whole costuming aspect. She told me all the good stuff that they did locally, like charity wise. And so when we came back from Germany, went to El Paso, which is where she lived and where the clan that she was in was based out of. And she basically like shanghaied me into joining the club because she purchased me my first helmet, and she didn't tell me she did it. So she bought the helmet, and then she basically gave it to me, and she was like, well, I got you a helmet, and now you have to join because otherwise this will be a huge waste of money. Which is, honestly, like that's a flimsy way to like force somebody into it. Clearly I was willing, so I went out, and I knew that she needed help like locally with her clan. She basically was just like, hey, I need some help like herding these cats and dealing with events and merchandise and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, like I'll help you out with that. And the charity aspect of it like really appealed to me. And like I said, I like Star Wars, so I bought like a mannequin mold off of the internet, and in like a week I built my kit. So I like just jumped right into it. But yeah, I had no idea. I was like the worst recruit, basically. Whatever like nightmarish sort of recruit. Well, maybe not all of. Didn't tick all of the boxes, but I didn't even have a forum account when I first got my helmet. I didn't look at the CRLs. None of it.
CRLs? What are those, man?
Yeah, I was like, what do I need to do? And they were like, go read the CRLs. And I was like, but you could just tell me. So I know from experience, okay, because I was that person. I definitely was that person.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good, you go from being, to use your words, the nightmare recruit, to you have since then become an integral part of the Mercs in various hats that you've worn. So let's kind of talk about some of the hats that you've had to wear in your time. I know you started as the nightmare recruit, and then you moved to?
And then, so my first role was in Varan clan, because that was my first clan. And my first role was actually Verilor. So that's kind of like the second in command, but they're also like the PR person for the clan. They control the clan sigil. They're they run the social media. They're supposed to handle the merchandise and stuff for the clan. And then it was like an interesting dynamic, and it wasn't necessarily intentional, but the club was a little bit different at that time. It was really hard for us to find people willing to step up and fill clan officer positions that were willing to put in the work. So I was a Verilor, my sister was the Alor'ad, and then we had a Rousselor, because at that time there were no Rousselor at Solish, it was just Rousselor. So we had a Rousselor, but then he moved. So then my brother-in-law at the time filled that position, and then he decided that he didn't have time, real life constraints and stuff like that. He didn't have time to do it anymore. So then I filled both spots. I was the Verilor and the Rousselor, which is, not ideal, but we made it work.
Been there before.
Yes. And then, due to, life stuff, it was time for me to move again, honestly. It was time for me to move again. And then, my sister's life was taking a different path as well, so she didn't have the time to commit to being an Alor'ad. So she stepped down, and until we could elect all new officers, because I was moving to a different part of the state. which would have put me out of that clan, so I couldn't like remain Alor'ad or anything. She stepped down, so for a very brief amount of time, probably like a month, I was the Alor'ad, the Verillar, and the Ruslar. Which, you know, that's kind of a mess, but it, you know, we made it work until we could replace us all.
Yeah. And then so from there you moved to, I know you left Varang and you moved into Moran territory.
I did. I left West Texas and I moved to like East/Central Texas, and I joined Clan Moran, which, you know, the area that I lived in kind of straddled two clan areas and it wasn't very well defined. But I basically decided that I was a lot more likely to troop north, like in Dallas and stuff like that. So that was my main, you know, deciding factor, was like, oh, I'll go with the clan that's to the north because I'm probably not going to go to Houston, which is the hub of the other clan. So I chose Moran. Plus I, you know, had heard great things about Moran and stuff like that from my previous clanmate, Tony. So
had some good folks.
Yeah, they did. They really did. I mean, and they still do, obviously. But, you know, at the time when I first moved to that area and became a clan member in Moran, it was pretty good. It was pretty cool. You know, we had, man, gosh, I feel old for a Merc now, even though I have not been in the club that long, but you see so many people come and go over the years in clan positions that it's crazy. But yeah, no, there was a good group when I moved to Moran at that time. There still are. So the evolution from there was I moved to Clan Moran, and then that was great, but there's this like habit, and this is in all clans that I've ever experienced, and I've been in a few, in that the main body of events and trooping is in whatever hub city that the clan is based out of. And that's just, it is what it is. And I was kind of in like a no man's land because I lived in Killeen. Like, there's nothing by Killeen. Austin's like the closest thing is 45 minutes away. So I, after a couple of years, and, you know, kind of drumming up interest in the town that I lived in, and there was quite a bit of it, surprisingly enough, it takes, you know, feet on the ground and going and canvassing people to attract more Mercs to the club. But after a couple of years, I basically had enough members to make my own clan. And there was no like crazy desire. Like everybody in Texas, especially at that time, we all worked really well together. You know, there was no animosity and there was none of that. Oh crap, my bad. I'm like totally out of sequence because I became a Rusal before I did that.
I was like, you missed a step there.
I know. Oh my Lord. I've done too many things, apparently. Not enough coffee today.
Yeah, whoever appointed you was obviously very brilliant man. Or person, whoever.
That would be you, Kevin. Yeah, I remember that. And I, you know, and here's the, like, to me, this was funny because I never knew at that time. Honestly, when I joined the club, I had no idea that I would ever do all the things with the club that I was going to end up doing. And when I moved to Killeen, and, you know, I was kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I enjoyed the camaraderie, like, with the Mercs and the sense of family that I had in Varang. And yes, literally, but also, you know, my extended family, which was the Mercs, because we were so close in that clan. We did a whole lot of stuff together, and it wasn't just events. You know, we had armor parties all the time. I've never had that many armor parties since. That's a lot of work, let me tell you. You know, we did social events together. We would have dinners together. We were always doing stuff together, and it was a big clan at that time. So it was an undertaking, but I missed that sense of family. So I wanted to contribute more when I moved to Killeen, and I was like, man, it's like the middle of nowhere. And so Tony actually told me about the Rusal position, because that was a relatively new position at that time. And he was like, well, you know, shoot Baelin a PM about it, and, you know, tell him that you're interested, and yada, yada, yada. So that's what I did.
And lo and behold, I think you were I don't think you're not currently Russell anymore, correct?
No.
But I
No.
think you were the longest serving Russell for the club.
Yes.
Because you took over. I held the Russell position for about 2 months before my RC had to step down and I got reelected to that position, and you were my replacement for the South Central region.
Mm-hmm.
And I know shortly after that, kind of the role got even more expanded. And you held that until very recently.
Until, gosh. So I'm trying to put a timeline on it, but I believe it was until 2018. And then I became a Russell director, which is was an entirely new position. Basically, I became a Russell back when they were regional officers.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was basically a change of responsibility for the entire position from regional command to app team. And I got to stay on. They didn't fire me, I guess. So, so I made that transition, and then yeah, like the role changed a little bit. But honestly, that helped me, in my opinion, that helped me do the job well, because I didn't have any sort of, like, I was used to working with, okay, let's talk to the regional commander, let's talk to the regional Versal, let's work together, because even if I'm not technically a regional officer, like, we all have the same mission. We're all supposed to be supporting each other. So yeah, so I did that, and then I formed my own clan in Texas, mostly due to logistics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was hard to get people to troop. It was hard to, go constantly be going to Dallas, which was 2+ hours away. It was hard to get like cards and stuff like that, promotional like merchandise for the Mercs. And then, we had enough people, so we went ahead and we made a clan in Central Texas, and which is still there. Karta Beskar, it's still there for now. Let's hope that they keep going strong. And gosh, yeah. And then I was on the app team. So as a Russell, I was technically a member of the app team, but then they made all the Russell kind of like voting members on the app team. And then the way the app team works is that it's to make the flow of applications go quicker and be more impartial and stuff like that. They're divided into sub-teams with someone to oversee the sub-teams to ensure consistency, basically. So I became my own voting team lead. So I was in charge of my voting team and all the apps come through and fixed lists and stuff like that. And then I became the voting team director, which means I was that person looking at all the apps and all the fixed lists and all the approvals that came through the team to make sure that we were being, consistent about our judgment and fair and unbiased and impartial and all that stuff. And then eventually I became the APXO. So that was like since the Russell were, while I was the voting team director, I also became the Russell director. Basically, it evolved to, we need someone to be the person that like manages. It's just a management thing, really.
Herder of cats.
A herder of cats. And let me tell you, you have to be a master herder of cats to fill any supervisory role in this club, genuinely. Oh man, yeah, I've done quite a bit. I've done quite a bit since I was shanghaied into joining the club.
And now you currently sit as the Conclave Warden,
Yes.
working with, so you kind of moved from the Alor'ad into at the time, a regional position,
Mm-hmm.
and now you kind of help oversee all the regional positions.
Yes, the regional officership positions, absolutely. And that's more of, so my experience with the app team was really, that is like some genuinely hands-on like management. You have to know your stuff, and it happens with time, and experience, basically. And the more you take on, the more you learn, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? So with the experience that I took from my years on the app team and dealing with my various, management and grading apps and handling communications between applicants and the app team and, members of the club and the app team and the council and the app team and everybody. That genuinely, like, that really helped me. Now I have not been the Conclave Warden for very long, a couple months, but that's a valuable experience. And you're not going to get that any other way than trial by fire.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate description. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about your armor. What inspired your overall theme, your motif, your face?
Oh man. So I know that a lot of people, they have character backstories, or they like to ascribe to like the more traditional like Mandalorian coloring and stuff like that, because each color signifies something different. And with me, like, I wish I had a cooler reasoning behind my colors on my kit, but I don't know. So my character's last name is Stormreaver, right? I come from a long line of Stormreavers. So at that time, like, I don't know how much my sister got into this when she was, answering and doing her video, but essentially Kathleen Kennedy, used to be like the liaison between costume clubs and, Star Wars and Disney. And at that time, it was kind of weird. I don't think it was like a club rule, but you could do like families and clans, like within a family, not our definition of clan, like a clan, like a group. But we had a sigil that was a family sigil, and then we had family colors, and it was like 3 colors. So it was purple and black, I think, were like the 2 that you had to have on your kit or something. I don't know. So I just listened. I was like, okay, whatever. And I initially wanted to have an all black kit. And I was influenced through misinformation not to make an all black kit. I was told I couldn't make one, which was wrong. That was wrong. But I was told I couldn't make one.
That sounds like something from somebody in a bright yellow kit.
I was told that I couldn't have a pristine kit, and then I was told I couldn't have an all black kit.
Yeah,
which both of
those sound like something from somebody in a bright yellow kit.
Both of those things are not true, and they weren't true then. So I was like, okay, I want to keep it like muted. I want to do gray and black. And then I was like, okay, I do live in El Paso. Let's not do a predominantly black kit. That's a little stupid on my part. So I went with gray, but to keep to the family colors, I did black pinstriping. And then this is why my chest diamond is purple, is because I had to have purple somewhere on my kit to adhere to the family Stormreaver colors. So I did it in the most minimal possible way that I could.
It's there.
It's there, and you can see it. It's basically neon purple, and it's just my one little chest diamond. But as far as the colors, that's kind of the story of the colors now. The design, the cut, they're not traditional, Boba or Jango Fett template plates, because they're obviously modern plates, but I didn't want to have like a regular, like, at that time I thought, kind of cookie cutter looking Mando. So I just thought it up and designed it myself and sat down with, at that time there was the boba maker, which is somewhere out there still. And I had a tasty adult beverage, and I just went ahead and drew permanent marker lines all over my mannequin form, took my Dremel and got to cutting. I was like, it's too late now. There's no going back.
And here you are, years later, and like I said, an integral part of the club.
Yeah.
So up to this point, what has been your favorite, most memorable event?
Oh man. Honestly, that's a little tough, because I've been fortunate enough that there's been a lot of them. There's been a lot of really good events. So what I'll tell you is things that stand out to me. And one of them happened actually before I was an official member, was in my first clan. I'll break it down by timeline. I've got like probably 3 top ones. So the first one would be before I was an official member. And this was really one of those things that like hooked me into the club, because this is one of my motivations for even being in the club to begin with, is, you know, kids and charity. And that's like a big deal to me. So Varane clan every year, with the money that we raised, would take kids from the local orphanage to the movies for Christmas, like around Christmas time. So for like a holiday thing, and we would buy each of them a toy, and we worked at the movie theater on Fort Hood, and we would, you know, make sure they had like their like kids packs or whatever, which is like popcorn and snacks and soda, and we would take them to see a movie. And, you know, ideally it was Star Wars, because at that time they were coming out like every December. And that is something that we did. And that was really, that impacted me, because these kids don't get stuff like that. You know, they're living in an orphanage, like a legitimate orphanage, and the money's just not there to provide that kind of stuff for them. So we were able to do it, and that really meant a lot to me, and I saw like the good that we could do in this club. So that was the first thing. That was one of those Kickstarter events that like I was like, ooh, okay. I need to do this, right? So, and then in Texas, there were 2 events. One was and this is something that I did every year, that I was there, and that we were invited, because at first, you know, the other clubs didn't know that my clan existed, which is like, that's just how it works. You know what I mean? It wasn't like an intentional thing.
Yeah.
So we did the Chewy's Giving to Children parade in Austin, which also happens in December. And that was so cool, because, you know, that's a joint, it's a parade. So there's all kinds of people there, and the whole parade is to give to kids. And it's not just a toy thing. It's also like, you know, a fundraising thing. But the unique part is that when you work with interclub stuff with the 501st and the Rebel Legion, you know, Saber Guilds, and, you know, droid builders and everybody, base characters, especially in the 501st, you know, they march and stuff, but they don't really get to interact with the crowd. It's like a thing, not while we're in the parade. And then, you know, Saber Guild's doing their performance, but they, you know, which is really awesome and engaging, but they don't get to interact with the kids. And the whole parade route is just lined with kids. So the Mercs, we're kind of like, you know, because we're custom. We're the only ones that get to like run up to these kids and give them high fives and take pictures with them and hug them. And, you know, it's super awesome, because, you know, in a child's eyes, you are what you're dressed as. So to them, that's like a really impactful, moving experience. And we get to do that, especially like we uniquely custom Mandalorians get to do that. And so that was a really fun thing. I loved it every time. Honestly, I'm not a huge convention person. Conventions aren't really my thing. Like, I go to them and, you know, obviously, you know, run the booth and stuff like that, but take photo ops. I've done a bunch of conventions. They're just, you know, part of what we do as an organization, but they're genuinely not my thing. Huge crowds. It's not very personal. You know, I know a lot of people like conventions too, because they get to go to different booths and they get to see other vendors and they get to sit on panels and stuff like that. It's just not my thing. I prefer the smaller stuff, the more interaction with like kids, basically. And you get interaction with kids at cons, but that's not the main point, you know, of the event. So the third event, and these are not ranked in any kind of order, it's just timeline wise. The third event that I really enjoyed was now I have to look up their name, because I think they're called the Flying Vikings, but I don't want to get their organizational name wrong. Okay, it's called Flying Vikings. Okay, so we did an event, and it was in July on a flight line. So it was hot, and I thought I was gonna pass out in my kit. And granted, you know, I've trooped in Texas the entire time I've been a Merc, but that was like brutal. And so we went to this event, and it was a very last minute invite, and it was an event that was being run by the Flying Vikings, which is a charity, a nonprofit charity organization, like the Mercs, so, you know, not costuming, but same lane. And I went, and it was an entire event for special needs and terminally ill children. I didn't know that before going. I just knew it was like some sort of charity event. There would be like, you know, kids there and stuff like that. And that was so, and what the Flying Vikings do is, you know, they take kids up in their planes. Like, they volunteer their time, they volunteer their aircraft, their own fuel, all that stuff, and they take kids up in planes and they fly them around, they bring them back, whatever. And there were other clubs there, you know, there was like, you know, the local police department and stuff like that. But it was just so much fun, even though I thought I was gonna die in my costume. It was so much fun. And I remember a little girl, and I remember her name was Kimmy, and she was nonverbal autistic, and she was like so enamored with my armor. And I had, because every time I put my kid on, I also do like battle makeup and braids and the whole nine. And she kept signing Star Wars to me, and she kept touching my braids, and she wanted me to do every activity with her. And that was just so like special to me, because, you know, kids are exactly why I'm in this organization. So that one was awesome. And it's like stuff like that at the end of the day is the most important thing. Even when you get negativity and stuff like that from within the club, from outside of the club, it keeps you going. It keeps you volunteering and doing the work.
Yeah, you always have that one or two moments that you think back of, okay, I've made a positive impact on some kid's life. There's more kids out there for me to impact. So you keep going. And I definitely can relate to that. I think we all can. Okay, now comes my favorite part. It's the lightning round. I've really got to come up with a better name for that.
Hold on, let me chug.
Chug. Okay, so lightning round. I'm going to present you some choices. Don't think, don't explain, just pick.
Okay.
So first one is always easy. Bubba or Django?
Django. I've graded enough bobas, okay? There's too many variations.
So EE3 or lightsaber?
EE3.
Okay. X-Wing or Star Destroyer?
Star Destroyer.
Sarlacc or Sail Barge?
Sarlacc.
Han or Lando?
Han.
Leia or Rey?
Leia.
Poe or Han?
Poe.
That's the lightning round.
That's it?
That's it. It's just easy. It's just like, why do you pick these people?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you think about it. Leia, I like Rey and all, but Leia was a senator, a princess, a rebel leader, a general, like all of it. You gotta respect that.
And to that point, and that's kind of why she's in there, is, you know, I'm one of them old folks that, you know, my earliest memories revolve around Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And Leia was my personal first introduction to a female badass.
Yeah.
And she was not, you know, yeah, okay, she's stuck, but she's one person on the Death Star. She's kind of stuck. But when she gets rescued, she takes over. It's not a matter of, oh, help me. It's move. You know, if you're not going to give me the gun, I'm going to blast my way over here. And then you get into Empire Strikes Back. Same thing. She's not the little damsel in distress. She takes charge of getting things taken care of. Return of the Jedi. She's the only main character. You know, yeah, Luke loses a hand and he falls. She gets shot and she still takes out stormtroopers. Leia's a badass.
Yep. No, and no, I totally agree with you. And in Rey, it seems like they really tried to stay true to that, like, strong, like, I don't need no man, like, female, you know, badassness. Yeah. But with what I will say is that even though, you know, from a canon perspective, Luke and Leia are both, Force users technically, and, she has the Force. Leia led not by using any sort of like Jedi mythos or a lightsaber. She led as a true leader, grassroots sort of rebellion thing. And that's really cool because, and I think honestly that kind of correlates to more of a Mandalorian way of thinking, if you want to get down to it, and that is
Mando Carl. She got the right stuff.
Yeah.
So definitely agree. So, all right. Before I cut you loose and let you have your day back, is there anything you'd like to say to the foundlings out there, those future members, on what it's like to be in this club?
Oh man, yeah, I definitely do. And this is important because of the fact that I didn't know anything really about the club, and I kind of joined it blindly. And like I said, I was not the best recruit before I became official. And I recently had this conversation with someone that reached out to me via Facebook, and that is looking at coming to this club from a completely, like, someone that doesn't know anything about costuming, doesn't know anything about costuming clubs. It can seem really daunting. Like, navigating the forums, I personally don't think it's that hard, but there's just such an overload of information, which is great, but also scary to someone who isn't used to, isn't accustomed to this. And they're like, I just want to build a costume, or I want to build a costume and I want to be able to go to the children's hospital and make people smile. So all these rules that we have in place, all the costume requirements can seem so overwhelming and daunting when you first look at this like wall of text on the CRL page, but it's legitimately not that hard to become official in this club. And just take it a step at a time and lean on your clan, because they're there to help you. And whether it's a clan officer or not, everybody should be working towards the same goal, and that is, to help you out, to help you get official, to help you troop, and to help make a difference, because ultimately that's what we're about. So don't be intimidated by the rules, okay? They're not that hard to follow. You will have help if you ask for it. We're there.
I think that's the biggest takeaway from that is ask for help.
Yes.
You don't have to do this on your own.
Absolutely not.
Even if you're in a place that, you come from, you had to found a clan. You were surrounded, but you needed to build up there. You had to help people out. I had to help found a clan. When I started this, there were no official members in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was the second approved in the state. And so, but if you ask for help, it's amazing how, even on the forums, if you ask for help, it's amazing the help that will come.
And honestly, for every one troll, there's 100 people that are there to help you. And they will, and especially if you stick to your clan board, they will quickly be silenced. We don't play around on the forum when it comes to bullying people.
We do not. So again, Katra Stormreaver, I thank you so much for your time today. I'm Baelin Halon, and this has been Off the Text.